Hi, I am Donna and I am the Coaches Confidant. So, as the Coaches Confidant, I create a safe space for impact driven coaches to explore their challenges, experiences, and their ideas as they navigate their way through their journey to growing their coaching practice. So, I believe it's really important that as we're growing our business, it is all about knowing ourselves and being the truest version of ourselves as we show up every day in that business. And so I wanted to create this series of conversations with other coaches to talk about the real journey that we go through as we're building our coaching practice. I feel that there's a lot of noise in this online space, and I'm seeing so many highly qualified and experienced coaches and therapists who feel like they're failing because they're struggling to achieve that success and stay strong to their beliefs, values, and ethics. So today I'm going to be joined by the amazing Kirstie Melmed, who is an intuitive coach. And when I figure out how I can get her to join, we will have her live with us. So Kirstie is passionate about empowering people to empowering people from all over the world who think that they need to make other people happy, and she helps them to start being brave as to who they really are. And so by combining her years of experience in training and coactive coaching, energy work and transactional analysis, she takes her clients through a unique transformational program called Brave to Be Me. Hi Kirsty, thank you for joining us, and thank you for those of you who are watching.
Hi.
Hello. So Kirsty, I've given somewhat brief explanation of what you do, but can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and sort of how you got to this part of your journey?
Sure. So I am from Cape Town, South Africa. I'm in my mid-30s and I'm about to be a mum of one. So very exciting times happening over on my side of the world. I got into coaching because, well, to be honest, I always knew I was going to be doing something along these lines. I knew I was going to be helping people in some way. I attended a workshop when I was in high school with someone who taught us to be real in our relationships, and it made a really big impact on me, and I decided right then and there that I wanted to do that for other people too. And then I lived my 20s and went off gallivanting around the world working for a tour operator, and that actually organically led me back to that original vision of helping people, because I was working with a bunch of young adults in Europe, and I was having these one-on-one sit-downs with them on a regular basis, which were meant to be about performance management, but they began to get really personal. And when I decided it was time to move back to Cape Town and kind of settle down, I thought, what was the thing about that job that I loved the most? And it was those one-on-one conversations, and also the annual training trip that I used to run. So I did a bit of research and discovered that coaching existed in the world. I'd never heard of it before then, and found someone to train with, and basically have opened myself up for business and have not looked back. So that's kind of been my journey to becoming a life coach.
Yeah, and so that's been over a number of years, hasn't it, as you've kind of grown and developed. And as mentioned, sort of, there's also the transactional analysis work. It's not just the coaching that you do and all of that energy work as well. So can you tell us a little bit more about kind of what drives your business? Because obviously you talk about that kind of brave to be me. And, we've had many, many discussions. For those of you who don't know, Kirsty is one of my closest business besties. We talk every week through our general struggles and our journey through growing our own coaching businesses. So I'd love everybody else to kind of learn the things that I probably already know about you.
Sure. So I came up with the BRAVE acronym, which is the journey that I take people on, because I was finding that I was getting the same kinds of people coming to me for coaching. So when I first opened almost 5.5 years ago. I'm in my 6th year of business now. So when I opened, I was open to anybody. I was like, anyone who wants a coach, come sign up. And what I noticed over time is that I was getting the same types of people coming my way. And typically they were people who are those really like over giving types, over nurturing, you know, the person who will put everybody else first, ahead of their own needs, who will bend over backwards to accommodate others, really empathic people. So they're quite sensitive to the energy of other people, the emotions of other people, and they tend to take responsibility for how other people are feeling. And so when I noticed this pattern, it really, I mean, it surprised me on the one hand, but on the other, not at all, because that's how I, you know, tend to operate when I'm under stress. And that's been my journey, is learning to start putting myself first and to put down positive boundaries. There's that scary word. And, you know, kind of do all of that personal work for myself. So I noticed that the people that were coming my way were like an earlier version of me before I started doing the work. And so I realized that at the crux of that is, like, what is really required of us to actually create change is to start being brave, to be who we are. And at the time I was doing quite a bit of learning around how to package up my services, because I mean, that's a whole other thing, but basically, you know, when you go into business, when you train to be a coach, you get really excited to be a coach. And then for me, at least, I declared myself open for business and I had no idea how to run a business.
Yeah.
So there was quite a steep learning curve there. And so I was quite involved in figuring out, how do I start packaging up my services? And one of the bits of advice was, you know, create a unique customer journey for people. So I sat with the word brave and I was like, right, what is it that I help people with? And what I've come up with is that is an acronym. I'll share it with you now. So the B stands for break through old patterns. We have to start doing things differently to how we've been doing them all along. Otherwise, nothing really changes. But the first step's always awareness of how we have been doing it. So we need to start breaking through those old patterns. The R stands for reparent our inner child. And so this is where my training in transactional analysis comes into it. We all have an inner parent, adult, and child. And that inner child oftentimes is feeling unsafe to be who they are, because, you know, when we grow up, we get told, don't be this way, don't be that way, fit into this box, you know, meet this expectation. And so we start to deny parts of ourselves. And we also at the same time develop this inner parent voice, which some people might call the inner critic or the ego. And that voice is telling us, you know, this is how you should be. And I can't stand that word should. It's always a trigger. So we have to begin to reparent our inner child. So start working with that inner parent voice and start shifting it in a more nurturing kind of direction. And then the A stands for access to inner wisdom. So yeah, like you said, I've trained in energy healing, and I work very intuitively. And I think a very important step in the process is for people to begin to access the voice of their inner wisdom, because we're all being guided all the time. We all have that inner voice, that inner knowing that, you know, tells us this is the next right step for me. But because we're so busy, you know, living on default according to the rules of the inner child and inner parent, we don't end up listening or even hearing that voice a lot of the times. Yeah. So we really have to begin to access our inner wisdom. And I encourage all my clients to, you know, start doing things like meditating and journaling and all of those good practices. The V stands for voice of vulnerability. So it's not enough to simply do the work within yourself. We have to then start looking at, well, how is this now playing out with the other people in my life? So we're all in relationship with people, whether we, you know, romantic, work, family, friends, we all have people in our life. And so, you know, it's one thing to be who you are alone in a locked room. It's quite another to do it in relation with somebody else. So it's learning how to be vulnerable within those relationships. And I bring in quite a lot of my TA theory, transactional analysis theory, at that point to help people see like how they're actually playing games and not being authentic with others, and how they can start being authentic instead. And then the last letter of the BRAVE acronym is the E, which stands for Empower Yourself Daily. Because doing this work takes a lot of energy, and we have to be filling our own cup first. And especially for those people who come my way who are just giving and giving and giving, if they're not filling themselves back up, it leads to burnout and resentment, and it's not a pretty picture. So they have to be taking care of themselves every single day. I teach holistic self-care, whole self approach, body, heart, mind, and soul, not just, have a bath and everything will be okay. There's a lot more to self-care than that. So really encouraging people to start taking care of themselves holistically. And yeah, that's basically the journey, the BRAVE journey. I take people on in various ways, but that's it.
Yeah, I love the way you say basically, but we know it's like so far from basic as a journey that we go through. And all of those things, we know they resonate so much with us in our lives. And, I can hear you talking through those things and realizing how much of all of those things that, in the journey that I've been on myself, that, we go through all of those different aspects. And it's so important, like, you can't go through this journey and miss any of those pieces out either. We've got to work through them all. And as you said there, I love that the daily part at the end, it is a daily part of our self-care, of looking after ourselves and taking ourselves forward in our business. We have to be doing these things daily, otherwise it is where things start to become a little bit unstuck. And so we're thinking about that kind of unstuck or feeling stuck. What would you say as kind of going through this journey have been some of the biggest struggles that you've experienced?
So in building a business, you mean? A coaching business? Yeah. So, yeah, like I said before, when I, declared myself open for business, I had no idea what that really meant. I just thought clients would magically appear because I was so excited to be coaching people. I thought everyone else would be so excited to be coached by me, quite naively. And it was quite a rude awakening to realize that that was not the case, that I actually had to learn something about marketing and also working in the online space. So when I first started off, I was really doing face-to-face consultations, charging by the hour, and began to explore marketing myself on Facebook, got some, made some headway that way, and also created my website and started using Google Ads so that people who knew that they wanted a coach would actually find me on Google. And again, got a bit of traction that way. But it wasn't fast and it wasn't easy, and it was really disheartening because I would be trying to put out content. And I think back in the day, like probably even my first year, I didn't put out any original content. I was just recycling other people's motivational quotes. And I think it was a sign of my confidence that I didn't quite trust, that I had a voice with something important to say. And so I was definitely holding back parts of myself. And so when I wasn't getting the results that I wanted in terms of, consistent income and I always had a client, but it was like anything from 1 to 5. There was never any more than that. And when that was happening, it really hit my self-esteem. I began to feel like there was something wrong with me. I began to get really frustrated and disillusioned and thinking like, I can't go on like this forever, but I know that this is my passion. So I just don't know what to do. And then, so that brought up a whole bunch of mindset blocks for me and also highlighted a real gap in my knowledge. So I ended up, looking for some business mentors, some other business coaches, and I got quite frustrated with it, to be honest. My very first business coach, she did help me make some headway. I hadn't had a coaching client at that point, I think in 4 months, when I started working with her. But she was very much, like my understanding of the word coach was very different from how she worked as a business coach. And I think there's a lot of misunderstanding there in general anyway. A lot of people call themselves coaches, but they're not coaches. They're actually mentors. And that's what she was. And so she was telling me what to do. And my inner rebellious self was going, nobody tells me what to do. So I was finding it very frustrating, you know, having to follow her advice. And then also I realized that her business was not doing so well. So I was thinking, well, if this all worked, why isn't it working for you? But to her credit, I mean, things did start to flow again after working with her a little bit, but it wasn't a long working relationship. And then I started finding people in the international online coaching space, and that was a lot more impactful. Learning about, you know, things like launches and sales funnels and all of these amazing technological things. And then my biggest problem became trying to replicate what those people were teaching, what they were doing, and not listening to that voice of my inner wisdom. So I wasn't figuring out what's the best way forward for me. I was looking at the success that they were having and thinking, well, I want that too. And so trying to be them.
Yeah.
And that's not going to work. That's never, I mean, you might have some success in that, you know, other people, but for me at least, the energy I was putting out was very driven by, you know, trying to hit income goals and that kind of thing. And I think I lost sight of the impact that I actually wanted to make. So it didn't really work for me at all. I remember I've tried launching like 6 times and it never really works because I'm not doing it from my own, you know, in the way that makes sense to me. I'm doing it in a way that makes sense to somebody else and works for somebody else, but just doesn't work for me. So yeah, so I think, sorry, long-winded answer there, but my biggest struggle was getting my mindset in a positive place consistently, getting the energy that I put out to be authentic and to be really aligned with who I actually am. And also so that my ideal clients can recognize themselves in me because, like I said before, they're earlier versions of me. They're going through the same struggles that I've been through. And in trying to change my voice to sound like somebody else's, they're not hearing me because, you know, I'm not really speaking my truth. I'm not speaking their truth. So things got very quiet. Yeah.
And I think, you know, you brought up so many important points there, and kind of going back to one of the things is really about finding our voice. For me, I'm the same. It didn't come easy, that level of confidence. So while, you know, I'd had my business for 16 years, you know, business for 10 years, been coaching for 16 years. So I had that kind of knowledge and experience, but I just didn't have that confidence, and probably that came more from moving into the online space. You talked at the beginning about being in person, you know, and we've talked often about that difference in the way that we promote and advertise ourselves in the offline world to the online world, and that the stark contrast in which things are done. And I think coming into the online space, no matter how much experience and how much, you know, training and knowledge that we have, it's a bit of an eye-opener. And as you say, there's so many different things out there, so many different marketing strategies, and we are trying to sort of find our way, and very often trying to emulate somebody else's way of doing it and wondering why it's not working for us. And that's, you know, something we've talked about a lot. It's something I work with all of my clients with, is that trying to find your unique way of doing it. And, you know, in the same way that you do that through that kind of brave to be me process, is people living their lives uniquely as themselves. You know, it's about creating a business that we're equally as unique in, you know, that we do have the confidence to stand up as our true selves and say, this is me, and learn to understand how we do things really well, how we're in flow, how our, you know, we're in, you know, our energy, and we're being really authentic in all that we do. So as you say, that clients can then resonate with that message that we're speaking, kind of the way I would say is probably we're speaking from the heart. And it's not about the strategy, it's not about the kind of monetary outcome. While yes, we, you know, we want to make money through our business, that's not the driving force that's behind the work that you do. it's about the impact that you want to create. But it's difficult to create that impact, you know, when we're finding those struggles. So it becomes a bit of a vicious cycle sometimes. In, you know, we sometimes don't trust ourselves enough. I don't know if you find that, but it's certainly something I find, and with other people that I talk to, is that level of trust. Because we, you know, when you talked about doing launch after launch after launch and wondering why it's not working, and when we're trying to launch from where we are rather than following somebody else's model, it's like we don't trust ourselves enough because we haven't got the evidence that suggests this is going to work. So it's like, oh, well, I can look at this other person because they had an epic launch, and so I must follow what they do. But then we're back in that conflict of, but that doesn't align with who we are and how we work. So we can get ourselves all sort of tied up in knots over those things. You know, and as you said, taking that time to do these things, to work on those mindset issues, to actually be open to the process quite often, I think is really important. It is trial and error. It is finding your way. You know, it's not to say that none of these things work. They work for, you know, the individuals. And there's absolutely things that we can take from those strategies, and it's been flexible enough to be able to adapt and change those things so that we can find where it fits with us.
Absolutely. So, and while you've been talking, I've just been thinking now, it was like this perfect parallel process of the thing that I help my clients with is the thing that I was struggling to do in my business, which was be brave to be who I am.
Yeah.
You know, so sorry, just having a little light bulb moments there as you were talking.
But don't we find that? And it's like, you know, you have those moments where you go, yeah, I do this too. Like, you know, we see that reflected in the clients that we work with. And quite often, and it's why part of the reason why the Coaches Confidant was created, because there are going to be moments when you're sitting with clients where you're sitting there thinking, yeah, I do this too. Where do I go with this? You know,
it is the worst feeling in the world. Well, it's on one hand the best, and on the other hand the worst. The way that it's the worst is when you're sitting with a client and they're dealing with something that you yourself are dealing with, and you're like, surely I should have this solved. I'm the coach. And it's the best because you see your client solving the problem and you think, wow, that was a really good idea, or that's really inspirational, or, you know, you're so happy for them and you actually draw inspiration from them, and you kind of realize that this is a two-way learning opportunity here. It's not about me being the guru who knows everything, you know, it's not that at all. It's a two-way learning relationship, and taking what you can from that. But yeah, when you get to the point where all your clients are kind of dealing with the same stuff that you're currently dealing with, it's a bit of an eye-opening moment, and you think, well, okay, they're all doing the work. I think I need to be doing the work too.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important as we're going through this journey that we are doing our own work alongside that. And whether it's, you know, using our own processes, whether it's reaching out and having somebody else to talk these things through. I mean, we have each other every week to be able to do that. And it's one of the things I actively encourage people to build a really solid support network around you in all different areas. It's not just about having a confidant, a coach to talk to. It's sometimes about having somebody to talk about brand and having somebody to talk about marketing, you know, all of these different aspects of your business. You know, create a solid support network around you so that you can share that experience and that knowledge and help each other to grow. And it's very much about empowering each other. You know, as we go through this journey, one of the things you said there about that kind of when we're learning from our clients, for me, you know, when I used to coordinate counseling services, one of the things that was always really strong for me was that element of when you are at that point where you think you know everything, you know, that's not the place to be in kind of therapy or coaching. You really need to understand that it is a journey that you're on where you're forever learning. We learn more things about ourselves with every client we take on. You know, we learn new things from those clients, and it should be that mutually, you know, learning journey that we're on. Yes, we're taking the clients through that, absolutely. We, you know, need to be doing that work so that we can show up in those sessions as the best version of ourselves. Are you going to walk into a session and get something which, like, kind of, like you say, the light bulb moment, or takes you a step back? Absolutely. But that's where you have that support to go to, you know, to work through those things when they come up, to say, I didn't realize that was still an issue for me, or that was even an issue sometimes.
Yeah. And I think that's so important as a coach. And again, now I'm going to go back to what is a coach actually versus what is a mentor. And a coach in the traditional sense, the way I've been trained at least, you know, it's when stuff like that comes up in your mind, it's to remain present with the client and be able to tuck that away and then go deal with it afterwards with those support structures. So, for example, something that I find really useful is supervision sessions with my coach mentor. And I mean, it's invaluable because then I can bring it up and go, right, I had this realization, I've got a lot of work to do in this area, and let's talk about that for a little bit. You know, now this is my space. But to be a really professional and ethical coach, you really need to, in the client session, honor that this is the client session, it's not your session, and know how to create that boundary. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you said as well that kind of difference between that coaching and that mentoring. For me, I realized that, you know, what I do is hold space for people, you know, and it's not about that giving advice or telling them what to do. There's talking through ideas, there's them finding their own answers. And I think that there is such a mix between different ways of working, but it is understanding, you know, when you are putting your own stuff in there, you know, like it's really difficult sometimes to not want to say to a client, well, have you thought, you know?
Yeah.
And one of the things when I was doing my training, we always, like, it was never about kind of giving advice, but almost like you'd shrug something off and go, well, I don't know if, like, you know, if this might work, what other things can you think of? And it's, you know, again, it's that allowing that journey of learning to take place. But I think there's so many things that different training styles, different coaches, different mentors, and it's become very adapted and changed in the coaching world. There's lots of different styles and lots of different ways of doing things. And I think one of the things that fit with that alignment is finding our own unique gifts within that. And I'd love to hear a little bit about your gift within the work that you do and how you kind of have found that over time.
Yeah. So something that's reflected back to me a lot by my clients is that I create a very calm space for them. So I think life is very chaotic, and especially when you are that over-giving type, you know, you're constantly on the go, on the move, taking responsibility everywhere where you don't need to be taking responsibility. Like, it gets quite chaotic and busy and loud. And what my clients have told me is that when they come to my our coaching sessions, it's a very safe space. It's a very calm space. It's a very non-judgmental space. And I did some reflecting on that to think, well, what is it that I'm doing that's unique in that? And it was, what I realized is that it's about my presence. I have a very calming presence. And when I'm speaking to somebody, I'm 100% present with them. So I offer them my presence. And again, the types of people that come my way, they don't get that in many other places in their lives because everybody else is, you know, trying to get their needs met. my clients, at least, they don't have spaces where somebody's giving them their undivided attention, where somebody's actually listening to them on a very deep level, and where somebody is honoring that they have needs and those need to be taken care of. So I think my presence is my gift, because I'm offering them something that they don't usually get to experience. And so, I mean, I had a discovery call yesterday with a new client, and she said, I was trying to explain to her, you know, how I work as a coach. And she actually said to me in the session, I already feel that now, even though we're not coaching now, we're just talking. She's like, I already feel that. I was like, awesome. I'm so excited. You know, it makes me feel good that people feel good around me. But the word definitely that goes through my mind is calm. Yeah. And honoring the presence with my presence. Yeah. I don't know if that makes sense, but I think
it makes perfect sense. And I think, you know, that energy that you project, you know, I've seen obviously in our relationship, and even when, you know, I've been present in your groups and in your lives and things like that, and there absolutely is that presence, even here now on this call. You know, I'm sure people watching are absolutely aware of that calming effect. And as you say, that presence, like, it is a gift to have that space and that time to share what's going on for us without any kind of fear of judgment, without that somebody else needing us to feel or do a certain thing. You know, it is about just holding that space for them. There's loads of hearts going on. I don't know if you can say this, or somebody obviously resonates.
Is out there. I'm not sure if that's her or someone else, but thank you.
Yeah. So absolutely having that reinforced. And sometimes, you know, as us coaches going through these journeys, we need to know that our client, you know, we're trying to do one thing, and we do absolutely need to know that our clients feel and experience those things, that we're not just telling ourselves this is what's happening, but actually that this is the experience that we're given. And you talked very early on about that kind of client experience within, you know, working with you. And so all the time that you've been coaching, I'm curious to know some of the kind of the best or maybe even worse pieces of advice, or, you know, things that have had the biggest impact on you as you've gone through this journey.
Two things pop to mind. The first piece of advice I was given was around bringing business in. And it was a coach mentor who said to me, build on the relationships you already have. And at that point in time, things were quite quiet. And so I thought, when I started out, originally I wanted to do a lot of work in schools. I wanted to work with teachers and students and parents. And so I'd put quite a bit of energy into that. But she said to me, yeah, build on the relationships you already have. And I realized that I had this entire network of people that were connected to schools here in Cape Town. And so I started connecting with those people, and a whole bunch of work came out of that. And I got to go and do workshops and coaching, you know, within some of the local schools in my area. And that was so exciting. And I remember after the first one, I walked out of our first group session, and as I walked down the path, I mean, I'll kid you not, there were hedges on either side, butterflies, not just one, like literally like 20 butterflies took flight as I walked down the path. And I was like, can nobody else see this? It was so exciting. I took it as such a sign that, you know, this is the path literally that I'm meant to be on. So that was such a great piece of advice. Work, you know, use the relationships you already have. And the second piece of advice that somebody said to me is, you can only take your clients as far as you've gone on your journey. And that was at that point in time where I realized I really wasn't being authentic, because I was, you know, encouraging people to do the work, but I wasn't doing the work myself, and my self-esteem was quite low at that point. So when somebody said that to me, it actually felt like a punch in the gut, because I recognized it as, okay, well, I want to be helping people, and if I can only help them as far as I'm going, and I'm feeling pretty bad right now, what does that mean for my clients? So it's gave me a kick up the bum to actually go and start using my own tools, you know, engaging with other coaches. It was probably a little bit before you and I started, you know, meeting every week, but basically going and seeking, you know, the tools in the space to do all of that inner work. I did a bunch of energy work as well, a lot of inner child work, you know, and went back to meditation every day. And I mean, I actually have a graph somewhere where it shows my income from the first 5 years of business. And the first 3 years, it's like they're quite low down. And then in the 4th year, suddenly it jumps up to here. And that's where I started doing that inner work. So it had a direct impact on my income, even though that wasn't the reason I was doing it. I was doing it because I wanted to have more impact with my clients. But it was just amazing how that was a great side effect anyway. Yeah. So yeah, you can only take your clients as far as you've gone. So if you're happy with where you are, then great, that's where you're going to take your clients. But if you want to go further, you need to keep doing your own work.
Yeah, and I think that's so important. There's a couple of things that kind of came up in that. Is one, realizing that if we want to create more impact just in that way with our clients, we have to do the work. And it is, you know, it's becoming aware of ourselves, is to, you know, how we're holding ourselves back, and how that then in turn may have an impact on our clients in a negative way, which is never what we want to have. But we realize that we're holding ourselves back from showing up as the, you know, the best version of ourselves. And where the other part of that sort of came up is that it does then have an impact on other things. You know, we know that by doing the work on ourselves, as you've said with the Brave to Be Me, it impacts our relationships, it impacts our finances, it impacts our life in so many different ways. And as coaches, I think we often beat ourselves up because we think we should know how to deal with all of these things because, you know, hey, we're a coach and we're supposed to have it all sorted. Surely, I mean, is that not what being a coach is all about? We've got to have it all sorted. But actually, we're human and things affect us. And sometimes, just like for our clients, we don't even know what they are. We don't realize that these things have crept up on us. But it's really important that we do know when, you know, when we become aware of them, we do know where to go for that support. We do know that we need to do the work, and that it's not just about putting it to one side and pretending like it's not happening. It is actually about, you know, facing it head on. And something I saw recently was talking about sort of that kind of healing journey, and about healing not being about avoiding. It's about feeling through things. It's about actually working through those experiences and those feelings, and quite often the pain that we don't want to face. But actually, in order to heal for ourselves so that we can create more impact in our own lives and the lives of others, is that we actually have to go through the process as much as we don't want it. And we know when we have clients who, you know, who also don't want to, and that's why we hold that safe space for them. You know, that's why you have the programs that you do, is to actually give that opportunity for people that when they are aware that things aren't going in the way that they want them to, that they are feeling, whether it's stuck, lost, overwhelmed, anxious, depressed, whatever those feelings are, but actually that they have a space that they can go to explore that really, really safely, knowing that you too have done the work. And so not only do you know as a coach from your learned experiences and from your training, but actually you know from a real honest and true place, because you've experienced those things yourself. You've grown through it yourself. And it's very much a continuous kind of growth and development. Yeah, it's never going to end, you know, and neither should it. You know, we should always be growing and developing in every way possible. And so the way that you have your business now, can you tell us a little bit about what that looks like? So how do clients work with you?
So with Baby on the Way, I have actually just relaunched, rebranded the way that I'm working online. So I have an umbrella, which is called Brave to Be Me. And everything that happens under that umbrella follows those 5 steps of the Brave journey. And within that, there's different options. So the first option is the Braver Community. So this is a monthly subscription where members get access to new content every single month for them to do their own learning and their own self-reflection. So it's kind of that very affordable option where people can kind of maintain the progress that they have made in coaching, or they can maybe be at the beginning of their journey and they're not quite ready to invest in coaching yet. So having that kind of monthly check-in is really useful to them. So every month they get access to a new blog, a video training, a worksheet, a meditation and a mantra to work with. And they also get access to our private Facebook community called the Braver Community. And every single day I do a post there offering them, a moment of reflection. Every evening we do Goodnight Gratitude, where we share one thing that we're grateful for. I do a live guided meditation every Monday, and I do a live Q&A session, usually on a Thursday afternoon, where I share my top learning from the week, and they have an opportunity to ask questions about whatever it is that they're learning about themselves at the time. So it's a really wonderful space for them to grow at their own pace, and to start to meet other people as well in the community that are doing the same thing. So that's the one option within Brave to Be Me, is the Braver Community. The next option is to have all of that and to do group coaching. So yeah, group coaching has kind of been born out of how I was working previously, and I've got this amazing group of members who, one of them's there, I can see you out there. I've got this amazing group of members who we were meeting on Zoom basically every second week. And so what I've done now is I've restructured that to be proper traditional group coaching, where twice a month we come together and they talk about whatever it is that they want to talk about, and I hold that space. So it's just like an individual coaching session, except it's in a group. And the beauty of that is that everybody gets to share their experiences. So you get to learn from the wisdom of the group, as well as, whatever input I make. So it's such a special process, and it's quite hard to explain unless you've actually experienced it, because I think people get a bit scared with groups and they think, I don't want to speak, I'm going to get judged. And it's like the opposite of that. It's the safe, non-judgmental space where you realize as well that the things that you're going through are very similar to the things that other people are going through. So you're actually not alone. So there's so much support and wisdom and opportunity for growth in a group setting like that. So you can have the Braver Community, the subscription, all of that for your own learning, and 2 group coaching sessions a month. The third option is the Braver Community, so all the subscription stuff, and 2 one-on-one coaching sessions a month. So for some people, they're ready, they want to have that really focused approach, and they want to only focus on their journey. So one-on-one is a great way to do that. Obviously, it's just me and them. So they're getting maximum time with me so that I can take them through that coactive coaching process. And yeah, it's such a great option if you're very serious about the journey. I mean, the sessions aren't necessarily very serious. I mean, I'm quite a lighthearted, humorous person. They're quite dynamic sessions, but it allows you to really stay focused and stay on track and know that you can make a big change in your life. And then the fourth option is to do all of it. So that's for people that are like really all in, and they can do it all. So that's how I'm working currently at the moment, offering those options, which is very exciting.
Yeah, I love that as a kind of as a whole model, as bringing, for me, I suppose it ticks so many boxes because it hits people at all different levels that they're at. It's not you can only work with me if you're here in your journey. It's like, actually, you can work with me wherever you are in your journey. You can just do that in different ways. So I think that's such a beautiful model to have. And it really fits, again, from the conversations we've had, it's very much aligned to your way of being as well. you know, which is so beautiful that you've been able to step in and own that and say, you know, this is how it works perfectly for me. You know, these are all aspects of how I bring out the most of me authentically within, you know, my coaching practice. And as I said, the fact that you meet people where they're at, so that in itself is such a beautiful way to coach. And there are lots.
Sorry, I just wanted to say about what you just said before I lose the train of thought, if that's okay. It's so exciting for me because I get to use all those parts of me that I really enjoy. So I love creating the content every month for the subscription for the Braver community. I love sharing concepts that I'm learning as I go. So, you know, that monthly blog and video training is very content rich. And the worksheet allows people to relate that to their own experience. So I'm very big on sharing ideas that are exciting to me and have been helpful to me. So I love being able to do that. I love working with groups. I've been trying to run group programs for years now, but with all my failed launches, it just never really came together. So now it has, and I love working in groups because I know how much it's impacted me being part of groups that I've been part of. And then, of course, the one-on-one coaching is my roots. I mean, that's what I trained in, and that's what I love doing, and being able to see people grow in that way. So it's exciting, I think, as a online coach or any type of coach actually, to create a business model, like you said, that speaks to your strengths and how you like doing things and how you know you can make the most impact with people. So yeah, sorry, I just wanted to throw that in.
No, I absolutely love it, and I love your explanation for it as well. And you know, the reason why I created the Coaches Confidant was for those same reasons. It was about kind of aligning with who I love one-to-one work. I've tried doing groups. It doesn't do it for me in the same way that actually holding that space for an individual at a time. Absolutely, the clients that I attract are people who love that focused attention on them. So it is about kind of owning that and, you know, really living it, rather than that, you know, we mentioned very early on, those kind of like shoulds being a bad word, but because we think we should be doing it a certain way, rather than actually just taking that time to engage with our inner wisdom, as you talked before, and understanding how we work at our best, how we're most in flow. I love doing one-to-one coaching. That's what I do. It's kind of, and it feels so simple in so many ways, to as you're kind of structured as, in that it's just stepping into and owning that this is the way that works best for you, and it feels fully aligned, and you're excited by the work that you do, and you can see that kind of passion and excitement shining through in all that you're doing. And so obviously I created these conversations because I wanted people to see that there isn't just one way of doing things, and that it isn't always, you know, somebody once recently said to me that having your own business isn't for the faint of heart, and it kind of, it does feel like a roller coaster ride sometimes. And I think, as I said in the kind of introduction, I see so many people that feel like they're failing because, like when you talked about those kind of failed launches, it is about, you know, we've tried things and they don't work necessarily for us. I'm very much about flexibility. If something isn't working, try something else, adapt, change it, refine it, whatever you need to do. Doesn't mean to say, you know, it's completely wrong, but maybe there are elements of it that don't align with you, and so you need to make those adjustments. And that's absolutely, you know, what you've embraced and done in your business, and I feel that's just such a beautiful thing for people to hear about, and to know that there isn't just one way of working. Like, there's two of us doing something completely different, but we're still doing what we're passionate about. We're still living our purpose. And so if for any of those who may have had similar experiences, you know, and are trying to grow their business right now, is there anything that you would kind of give as your words of wisdom or your insight, especially maybe for those who are feeling like given up, and at that point, you know, I was there myself not that long ago, and I'm sure a lot of us have been there, of kind of like, this wasn't what it was meant to be. I was meant to be doing what I loved and what I was passionate about and feeling, you know, really into my purpose. So is there any kind of advice that you would give to anybody going through this journey?
Three things pop up. The first is quite practical. Realize where your gaps in knowledge are and go fill those gaps. So there are so many easy ways to work online, to receive money online, to set up sessions online, scheduling, like to produce content online. I mean, the world that we're living in now with technology is just incredible. And you can make life really easy for yourself, or you can make it really hard and complicated. So my first piece of advice is very practical. It's find those ways that make life easier for you and easier for your clients, and set them up. Because once you put in a little bit of time into doing that, it saves you so much time in the long run. So that's the first thing. The second thing is to make sure that you have a support system in place. So, you know, your families and your friends, bless them, they want what's best for you, but unless they're in this online space, they have no idea what you do and no idea what you face. And I mean, I'm very close to my family and my friends, and I'll start talking about work and I can see that they start glazing over because they just don't get it. They can't relate. It's so different to their reality. So go and find yourself a group of people, or even just one person to begin with, who really gets what you're going through and who can help you kind of figure things out and tease out ideas, and sometimes just have a moan when you're having a bad day, you know, but help you look forward again afterwards. Donna is a great person for that. The Coaches Confidant that she, you know, the whole thing that you're offering is so valuable. And I mean, we meet every single week, and without that, I'd be lost. Like, it's so important to have that support system in place. So that's the second thing. And the third thing is make sure that you are really well supported within yourself. So go and do the inner work. Get your energy in a good place every day. You know, if you're sitting and feeling frustrated about life and then going and doing a Facebook Live, that's going to come across. People will feel your energy. If you're in a negative headspace, they will feel that, and they're not going to want to sign up with you. So, and also you're not really going to help them, you know, as such. Like, it's very hard to walk into a session and to just switch off what's going on inside you. So make sure that you are taking care of yourself, and that you are, clarity, I think, is the word that's going around in my mind. Get very clear within yourself so that you can then serve others from a healthy place. Very important. Take care.
Yeah, and I would absolutely reiterate all of those things. And for me, one of the biggest things is about being true to ourselves. It's about that being truly authentic in who we are, in what we do. It's not about trying to do it somebody else's way. Learn that information. As Kirsty said, find those gaps in your learning and learn about the things, but don't take them as, you know, this is how it is and has to be. It's like, take that information and adapt and refine it, make adjustments till it fits with who you are, rather than you having to fit with, you know, being somebody else, trying to do it somebody else's way. And for me, it's been really, really important to kind of shut out some of that noise that's around us, and be more introspective, thinking more about, well, you know, I'm very much about connect with your body, and Kirsty's already talked about that kind of mind, body, soul connection. For me, it is very much about noticing that difference between when our head says yes and our body says no, and not kind of just go, well, I'll like overrule one part. It's actually listen to your whole self and get your whole self aligned with the way you're working, the things that you're doing in growing your business. A 100% support network is the most valuable thing you will ever have, I believe, in growing your business. And so Thank you so much for joining us today, Kirsty. I hope to have you join me again for lots more conversations. Today is just the beginning of these conversations, and you know, they will continue every week. I'll keep putting posts up to let you know who's next and what we're going to be talking about. But if any of today's conversation is resonating with any of you watching, and you want that safe space to talk through, I offer a 30-minute taster session. You just need to go to the link in my bio. Or if you would like to join me in having a conversation around your coaching journey, your values, your vision, your mission, the impact that you want to create in the world as a coach and entrepreneur, there is also a join the conversation link in the bio. So just click that. We'll have a conversation between us around what we would be discussing, and then we'll set up a date for you to come live on there and join the conversation. So again, thank you so much for joining us, Kirsty, and I will hopefully see you all again next week. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.